So sometimes I take off my glasses because I'm about to read, and I can look in the camera and it kind of looks like I make eye contact instead of just a glare. This is going to be special. This is my second book I wrote. The first book I wrote, might as well introduce it a little bit. Last 2024 fall, I was thinking of ways to come up with some side hustles to make some extra money in addition to having a decent job that kind of paid relatively well. I'm consulted with AI, ChatGPT, was like, all right, let's come up with 50 ideas that we can start from the comfort of our home on weekends, and hopefully one day it'll grow to be a thriving enterprise. So that became a book called 50 Shades of Ramen, because while you're struggling, you're kind of eating ramen, you're putting up with some shit, you're going through the sleepless nights and stressing and trying to make ends meet until the dream happens, right? None of that has happened for me so far. But the first book was 50 Shades of Ramen, 50 business ideas. And this is one of them. Start a t-shirt company, a clothing company. If you have some creative outputs, and or if you're a creative type and you need some outlets, I chose to pursue craftsmanship. I chose to dive deeper into music, dive deeper into writing, dive kind of diddle and scratch and doodle and stuff around with life, just to kind of keep things fun and light and keep my creativity going. I also learned how to weld. I learned how to work with fiberglass. I learned how to work with metals and different chemicals as far as automotive and repair industry related, so I can fix things and kind of use a little bit of imaginations to learn new skills and troubleshoot, right? But for a while, or I guess my whole life, I've been kind of always writing, keeping journals, thinking of ideas, listening to some inputs and reading books and stuff, right? So I'm still kind of a geeky type, geeky enough to write some books. So we wrote that book was how to make some money. But underlying to that, because it doesn't matter what we do, if we're mentally and emotionally not doing well, it's kind of everything is a low priority, right? Because when we're distraught on the inside, it's like an inner storm, and everything on the outside isn't quite as significant as how we feel or the pain that we're dealing with or this and that. So I wrote this next book called I Am Phoenix. What's a symbolism? What is a phoenix symbolic for, right? A rebirth, a rebrand, another after resilience, right? Getting back up after you've been burned. Trying again, flying again, and this and that. So it's not that I think I'm a bird. But I wrote this book because I was noticing, I'm kind of slightly empathetic, and I was noticing that dudes around me and people around me were kind of getting sad. And aside from Christianity, there's truly not too much hopeful messages out there. So I was like, why are you guys all sad? In my Bible, it says that we're to be filled with hope and optimism, and we have a certain capability with our hands and our mouths to make things happen, which is how we actually got to put forth the effort, right? Because I've been to quite a few rock bottoms. I've hit plenty of walls. I've failed so many times. I've been left unread and undelivered so many times. I'm like, at some point, what really I needed to address was my inner peace, my inner stuff. And so I wrote this book because a lot of people are going through some problems. And then this book is called A Kind Word to Our Leaders. So it's I Am Phoenix. It's a book on leadership, but it's hopefully an optimistic book on leadership. Chapter 1. Every great leader understands the importance of a foundation. There are moments in life where we find ourselves at the lowest point imaginable, a place where it feels like there's no no further to fall. For some, it's a result of high-stakes decisions gone wrong, a path that, while once promising, leads to unintended consequences. For others, it's a gradual realization that despite all the efforts, life has not yielded the success, meaning, and fulfillment they expected. Rock bottom is a reality many face, no matter how high they've risen. In addition to having some failures under my belt, I've also feel like I've had quite a few successes, and I've had a certain level of a little bit of money, and it seems like it's a little bit more than the average. I've had a couple skills. I've been in a few certain situations to where I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of epitomic, I guess. Is that a word? Well, like a highlight of sorts, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, not a lot of people might experience this. And then I concluded that when I choose to be grateful and observant and live in the moment, that the moment is actually quite beautiful regardless of where you are, regardless of the status, right? I don't go around having a shitty day because I was kind of poor yesterday. I wasn't aware of the fact that I was poor, so I had a good day yesterday, the day before that too. I mean, I didn't spend 10, 15, $20,000, $100,000 on a little bit of entertainment or a cool car, but I still had a good day yesterday, right? So, and it's all kind of relative. So whether we're on the rock bottom here or physically or in here, it's all kind of the same. The descent into rock bottom is often driven by something deeper, self-loathing disguised as ambition or self-reliance. So many times, the rock bottom that we're facing is a consequence of our actions, of our decisions. Even for those who have tasted success, there's a powerful irony. At times, the more we achieve, the more we can become trapped by our own destructive patterns. Many brilliant minds have found themselves in the pit, often driven by unchecked desires or misguided priorities. The sad reality is that even when blessed with privilege, opportunity, and resources, self-destruction can still follow. And this is kind of crazy because as a Christian, I've had a few visions, right? And I wrote this book last year. This is a kind word to our leaders. And I haven't been promoting it because when I had friends, as soon as I start talking about my Christian stuff, friends leave. And so maybe because like these Christians will kind of sound a little too high and lofty and high and mighty, and that's kind of annoying. And that's not the approach. That's not how I want to be perceived. So A, I try to minimize this religious talk, but B, I'm actually embrace being a human, because a human is so full of faults and problems that only a graceful, a loving father will have that much grace on a sinful, terrible human, right? And not all, right? But we all have our grace, our scale of evil and misdeeds and secrecy and stuff. So there is that. In these moments of defeat, we're offered an extraordinary opportunity, the chance to rebuild. Some are offered a chance to rebuild. Some choose to ignore that chance and they go further into destruction. And then pretty soon they discover that destruction is also self-destruction. So sometimes success helps us to self-destruct a little bit faster. The chance to rebuild. As leaders, we know the importance of a solid foundation, and sometimes rock bottom is precisely that, solid, unshakable ground upon which we can start anew. It's the place where we're confronted with the reality of our choices and where we're given the chance to decide, will we continue down the path of destruction or will rise again stronger and wiser? Obviously, there's a little bit more. It's a couple more pages before chapter 2. But I am Phoenix. I have it available for free on my website in like 6, 8, 10 different languages. I have it for dirt poor on Amazon. I can send you a PDF. I have a couple booklets. And this is actually a book that I'm working with some people to make it available in prisons. Since I write kind of Christian leadership content, it's also, I think, helpful to possibly transform some badasses in jail and be like, hey, here's some free hope in a good direction. And hopefully you can build a nice, productive family and the business and affect your community in a positive way. So I think it's a good message. It's only 6 chapters. It's only like 30 pages. It's an easy print. Haven't sold any of it, but makes for good content and makes for a decent gift. So that was chapter 1 of I Am Phoenix. Thanks for tuning in.